Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. Welcome back to our previews of the Texas upcoming opponents. And yes, it's a big one, a huge one. I don't even know if they get bigger than this. Texas' first ever meeting against the Michigan Wolverines in the regular season. They're going on the road to the big house, and nobody better to break it down with me than my man CJ Vogel, lifetime Longhorn, the young phenom. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Thank you guys for joining us. All right, CJ, let's not waste any time, man. Let's just dive right into it because there's a lot of layers we got to get here. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball for Texas. They're going up against one of the best defenses in the country. The guy who will be taking first cornerback drafted off the board, Will Johnson, who's been, by some people's projections, the best cornerback in college football for the last 2 years. They also have on the defensive front Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. Those guys will be likely drafted in the first and the second round. Mason Graham, a lot of people say he's going to be a top 10 pick potentially. So he'll be the first D tackle taken off the board. They got a really good defensive end. I like Josiah Stewart, who will be drafted in the NFL too. And they got some other players who are high-level players across the board defensively. So the last time basically Texas played a defense that at least as star-studded, as talented overall in terms of high-level NFL caliber talent of this nature was probably the Alabama game. I mean, so they're not structurally built the same, but in terms of having those types of players, a lot of those types of players, a high quantity of them, that was the last time in Texas, obviously on the road too, in Tuscaloosa versus the GOAT Nick Saban were able to prevail. That's why a lot of people are confident in this matchup. But what do you see Texas offense going up against that vaunted Michigan defense?
Yeah, I think when you draw the comparisons between Michigan this year versus Alabama a year ago, obviously Michigan is locked in with those two defensive tackles. I think the edge pressure is similar, right? Alabama had some really talented edge rushers a year ago, and I think Alabama actually had a better secondary. Michigan lost a lot. Saren still was one of their focal points. I know that we've talked about Will Johnson being maybe, if not the number one cornerback in all of the country, but he didn't play like that against Fresno State, right? He allowed 5-6 catches, 80, 90 yards, whatever it was. I know that he had the pick six, Rod, but if you go back to that drive, yeah, Fresno State probably should have had two other interceptions on that drive. One was negated due to a roughing the passer penalty. The other was turned over after review. But Fresno State came out in the same formation and ran the same concept twice before. That third time, they went back to the well 3 times in a row with that wide receiver screen out of a bunch look to the boundary. So at one point, yeah, you're playing with fire targeting Will Johnson to begin with. And 2, hey, don't do that. Don't do it again, So for him to have seen it twice already, the 2 plays previous to then jump the lane, there's a miscommunication on who was supposed to block him. He was unblocked, ran right in front of the pass and took it to the house. There was still success with Fresno State throwing the football against Michigan's defense. A lot of it came over the middle of the field, right? There's the RPO kind of bang 8 that they hit a few times for some big gains. They had a really nice fade route towards the sideline that they caught over a backup cornerback number 24. So listen, you got to pick your poison when you play Michigan, and when teams do rotate in the secondary, that's when you start to get really aggressive with matchups. How do you get Isaiah Bond on some of these guys? How do you get Matthew Golden in the slot against a backup linebacker? Whatever it might be, that's where Texas and Steve Sarkisian need to be really careful with their approaches. But hey, if you told me, I know that Fresno State, they ran for about 1.7 yards with their true tailback. Mm-hmm. But if you throw for 240 against that defense at Fresno State, I'll take that. I'll take that with some optimism for Quinn Ewers, who, again, that Alabama secondary last year was much more talented than what we're seeing holistically from Michigan right now.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I like that you brought up how Fresno State, they didn't back down. They challenged Will Johnson. And I think Sark will too. Sark doesn't necessarily shy away from any particular defender. We've seen that when they played Bama 2 years back-to-back, right? Sometimes he'll even pick on certain defenders. And that Alabama secondary was loaded last time they played them, including Caleb Downs, who will end up being another NFL player. So I'm with you. And I think ultimately Texas you got to turn it into a track meet, man. And I know ultimately, you don't want to abandon the run. I'm not saying that at all. You still want to have some balance, but to start out this game, early down pass rates, something I bring up all the time, I think you got to be hovering around 58 to 60%. above 55%, certainly, but I think you would be hovering close to 60%. That was the case when they played Alabama, right? It was a big game, and in big games, Sark leads with the pass. I think that's where his creativity shines the most, and he's got a third-year starting quarterback in Quinn. I think you lead off with the pass in this game, and I would do it in a lot of different ways. You talk about how do you isolate matchups, how are you going to get Isaiah Bond, and how you're going to end up getting Matthew Golden with the favorable matchups. The only way to truly do it, I think, is to get a little bit extreme in some of your formations. And I think you got to break out something that Michigan hadn't seen. I wouldn't be surprised, not saying it's gonna happen, but your 10 personnel package, which you have not shown at all, but we know now you got the depth at wide receiver. I wouldn't be surprised to throw it out there with 1 back, 0 tight ends, and just decide to blitz Michigan with a little speed and see if their linebackers can handle it. And I'm not saying it should be the staple of the offense versus Michigan, but it should be sprinkle it in because, like you said, you're trying to find these favorable matchups, and I think to do that, you need to stress that Michigan defense a little bit. And I was stressing by spreading them out. The empty formation worked really well. Colorado State, they only ran it, I think, like 3 times, but you got 2 explosive plays out of it. I see if Michigan handled it. I think Michigan, that's another way to stress that defense. And I will see if they can, if ultimately they can keep up with all your moving targets. So usually you would have really high pre-snap motion rates. I think they'll be even higher versus Michigan. And Michigan sees it a lot, but I don't know if they see as many compressed, condensed sets and as much pre-snap motion shifts that you're going to see from Sark. So I'd expect him to increase the amount of pre-snap candy for the Michigan defense, just to try to get some of those matchups you're talking about, those favorable matchups too. So I expect Sark to be in his creative bag, and I expect him to lead with the pass.
Yeah, definitely. This feels like the game in which you went out to add Amari Niblack for, right? You know, you want to have that 11 or 12 personnel look on the field, but when you play in Michigan, who's known for that power, physicality up front, well, there's the speed that separates Texas from Michigan as well in those base looks, right? A couple things, right? You talked about those exotic looks. I don't think anything was all that exotic for Texas against Colorado State. Obviously, that was by design, Rod, but over 70% of those snaps that Quinn Ewers was on the field for, Texas had some sort of pre-snap motion. So you're going to continue to see that from the Longhorns to be able to just make the defense communicate, give them a 2x3 or 2x2 look, turn into a 3x1 or a stack look, turn into a spread empty look. Michigan even came out for 2 snaps in a 5-out empty look as well. So you got to put something on tape that makes them prepare. Here's the big thing, Rod. It's kind of a confliction of styles, right? It's Michigan had 10 first downs. Of course, I took out the kneeling at the end. Texas had 11 first downs, taking out the kneel at the end. Michigan started 7 of those 10 drives with a run. Texas started 8 of their 11 with a pass. These are all first down plays. So you see how they want to get things going. Just get 3 to 4 or 5 yards on first down, get back to it, open up the playbook, and move from there. Texas, on the other hand, hey, let's let Quinn get into a rhythm to start things off, right? Let's get the ball out there. Let's let our playmakers in space create something. So Texas here, I was looking at the numbers against Fresno State, Rod. Longest rush was 7 yards. They threw an interception. They had an incompletion, but they didn't really find a whole lot of success on those first downs. And I thought Fresno State did a great job to begin drives by not allowing Michigan to get all that ahead of the chains, right? 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 1 yard, 2 yard, 1 yards, 7 yards, and then 2 again. So they did a good job of making Michigan really have to work for their drives to begin. And I think that's exactly where Texas has to come in ready to play ball, is on those early down situations to begin drives from Michigan whenever they get back there to start.
Yep. If Michigan is in 2nd and long and 3rd and long, their playbook shrinks because that's not what they want to do. And much like you had Colorado State in that position where you forced them to beat you left-handed, you got to force Michigan to rely on the pass. That has to be part of that game plan defensively for Texas. But getting back to offensively, I totally agree with you. I think you blitz them with speed. You turn into a track. You lead with speed, and then you can finish with your running game and your power. That's what you did against Alabama. That's when Sark's model, his blueprint to win, is at its, in my opinion, its most ideal form. is when he's leading with the speed, starts with the speed, forces you to chase speed for 2.5, 3 quarters. And then when he has that run and they get that lead, he can pound you into submission. Is almost the ideal blueprint for the Bama game. And I think on the road against Michigan, I think you'll see something similar. It seems like Sark's going to lean on the pass this year early on a little bit more. And I think it's a smart thing to do. It's time for you to get in the game, folks. That's right. Football season is here. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play fantasy sports. How does it work? It's really simple, really easy. I got the app on my phone. You just download the Underdog app or go online. It takes almost no time at all. It's really simple, really easy, and really fun. You can play their pick'em game. I can make picks really easy, submit them, and it takes me, 60 to 90 seconds to do it. Really pain-free, but if I want to dive deep and go down a rabbit hole about some of those picks, I can do that too. You guys know I got the research. I can dig deeper, and I can make up to 325 times my money. That's the real important thing about Underdog. Underdog adds a ton of excitement to the sports viewing experience, especially for football, which is why I personally love it, but you'll love it too. They got lots of great opportunities for sports of every kind, and the best part is you can track your progress real time. Today, Underdog is hooking you up for the start of football season. You can go to underdogfantasy.com. Use the promo code ONTexas. That's right. Use the promo code ONTexas for a first deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick. That's right. They also have an additional site-wide Travis Kelce free pick, all right, that you'll be able to take advantage of until the kickoff of the NFL season, which kicks off tomorrow. Again, underdogfantasy.com. Use the promo code ONTexas right now for a free deposit offer up to $1,000 and 2 free picks if you count that Travis Kelce free pick. That's Underdog Fantasy, our choice and the choice for daily fantasy. Getting back to it though with the offense, I got one question for you in terms of Quinn and how he handles pressure. We know that Wink Martindale is going to bring a lot of pressure. He wasn't pressured much in the Colorado State game, and Colorado State didn't do much in terms of simulated pressures. They didn't blitz very often. They didn't bring a lot of extra guys. Wink Martindale is going to do that. He's going to be able to create pressure in different ways. I think Quinn is going to be up to the task, and I think he's going to handle it. But that to me is a question mark. In the Colorado State game, and we've talked about this, got pressured twice. Those were his 2 worst plays. And so it's not about when Quinn's on time, his average time to throw in that game versus Colorado State was 2.17 seconds. Nobody's going to touch him in 2.17 seconds.
Right.
It just shows you how much of a groove he can get in when he's on time and he's in rhythm. And that's what Sark's trying to achieve when he starts off throwing the ball early. But if you can get pressure on Quinn, if you can force him to hold on to the ball a little bit longer, that I think may be the determining factor in this game as well. Because Michigan, I'm assuming, is going to get pressure. They'll probably get anywhere from 12 to 15 pressures, somewhere around there. If they get 20-something, then we got a problem, right? But I think they'll get like from 12 to 15. Does Quinn have a bad play, a bad result in a third of those, in a quarter of those? And you know what I mean? And if he does, then what's the result of those plays and how do they kind of flip the game? Because those were Colorado State's best plays on defense were when they finally got pressure on Quinn and they able to make some splash plays. If Michigan does that could be a problem potentially.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We saw Fresno State have some rollouts at some point with Mikey Keene, their quarterback, right? They kind of tried to move the pocket in that second half when they drove down the field. They had a 7-play, 75-yard touchdown, 3 consecutive completions there. They went to the well a good bit, pretty consistently against that Michigan defense, Rod. They said, hey, if it's working, we're going to keep doing it. And finally get them on the interception, the pick 6. But, they moved the pocket left and right on true rollouts to a comeback to either side. It worked, and they were complete. But do you have that same kind of rollout ability with a Quinn Ewers, right? That's never really has been his consistent game. He can do it. He can make throws on the run. We know the arm strength, but for the most part, I think Quinn feels most comfortable in that pocket where he can set his feet and make a throw on kind of with that protection around him. He said he's felt very comfortable in that pocket. And for the most part, we've talked a whole lot this offseason about Kenneth Grant, Mason Grant. but it's Josiah Stewart and it's Derek Moore that Texas is really going to have to find ways to keep away from the quarterback. That's going to be on Cam Williams, and that's going to be on Kelvin Banks, the two edge guys for the Longhorns. Of course, Moore and Stewart combined for 8 total pressures and a sack, right? They were getting after the quarterback quickly at 2.17 seconds in a defense that is very opportunistic Michigan-wise. I broke down some of this on Twitter and at ontexasfootball.com earlier this week, Rod. They're going to look to jump routes. Does Texas have a double move in them? Does Texas have something with a pump and go that they can rely on to keep Michigan honest in a way that, yes, the defensive edge room for Michigan isn't getting quarterback pressure yet, but those guys aren't necessarily in the passing route right away for Quinn whenever he does decide to pull the trigger quick there. So that's going to be an interesting balance for Sark. And I do wonder how much they use that kind of orbit halo motion to move an offensive lineman over. We saw it at times against Colorado State, but it's going to be key.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And Sark can do it in a lot of creative ways, kind of counter the pressure that they're going to try to create. But I know every now and then Sark's going to want to take a shot downfield. In big games, he always does, to challenge that secondary, especially if they're going to play some man coverage. And Wink Martindale, his last year with the Giants, he played zero coverage at times. There was some zero coverage, a lot of man coverage on back, pairing up with those pressure packages. If Sark finds the right combination of a man coverage or a zero coverage back there, and he's got the right play dialed up, then I think there'll be the tipping point. If the pressure can get there, how does Quinn handle the pressure? Is he able to deliver the football on time and cash in on some of those big plays? All right. Offensively, I'll say this. I don't think Texas is going to be able to run the ball consistently versus Michigan. I'll throw that out there. I'll give them enough credit for that and say Texas won't come out and start running the ball consistently. But the running game for Texas doesn't really stress Michigan. Michigan, I guarantee you, they're more concerned and stressed out about defending the weapons in the passing game, as I think most teams that face Texas will be. All right, jumping to the other side of the ball, the Texas defense versus the Michigan offense. And this is also a very compelling matchup because this Michigan offense is, I'm not going to say they're one-dimensional, but man, they lead. They're
pretty close, Rod.
Yeah, they're pretty close. Their identity is the run. They lead with the run. They're run oriented. How do they throw the football downfield? That's the question. What is the vertical threat from Michigan at all, if any?
I don't know. I don't know if they know. You'd like it if you're a Michigan fan for it to be Tyler Morris or Samaj Morgan. They didn't really show up in that week 1 against Fresno State. Only 5 attempts beyond 10 yards, only 1 completion, another interception. So, it's kind of a struggle bus. They didn't have any success throwing to anybody not named Colston Loveland. And, when they do, Colston Loveland's tremendous. 8 of 9 when targeted, 87 yards, a touchdown. He's great after the catch as well. But who else can they rely on to create separation in those big plays after the catch? They didn't showcase anything, right? Texas, I know we talked about it. Isaiah Bond, separation in the end zone. Matthew Golden, 2 touchdowns there. Separation in the red zone on the out route. Ryan Wingo, after the catch, we saw what he could do. Jonte Cook, after the catch, we saw what he could do. And we know how quick Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner are with the ball in their hands. Michigan didn't really showcase that. And I don't know if they're just completely trying to keep everything on the wraps, but at some point, you have to at least know, if you're a brand new starting quarterback and a brand new offensive coordinator, hey, these are the guys that can get it done. And I don't think they have that right now. Roman Wilson was their number 1 guy last year. Cornelius Johnson was kind of that bigger body possession guy down the field as well. They didn't have that. They went down the field a couple times, one on a post. It was intercepted. They had a slot fade, incomplete. They had another just true fade, incomplete. No separation at either point. So it's a big question mark. And if Texas does sell out to stop the run this week, well, this is why, Rod, we've talked about it this whole offseason. Texas needed to get more athletic in the secondary, and they got more athletic in the secondary. If you sell out to stop the run, that athleticism on the outside is what's going to keep Michigan at home in the passing game. And, hey, I don't know. If the game plan becomes Davis Warren, make him beat you, then you've played exactly the game that you wanted to play if you're the Texas defense.
Yeah, if you're winning first down and they have to throw it on second or third down, that's already a win for Texas.
Yeah,
anytime
absolutely.
Michigan is really throwing the foot, or has to throw the football, that's going to be considered a win for Texas. And you're right about Colston Loveland. They got to have a plan for this guy. My plan would be, listen, this is perfect to set up Jahdae Barron being a Thorpe Award finalist. You moved him around in the first game of the season versus Colorado State. He made a big play, got an interception. He played nickel. He played corner. In this game, depending on where Loveland is, if Loveland's hurting you, you can just move Jahdae Barron around. If he's lining up where the safety's going to defend him, put him at safety. If he's lining up where the nickels defend him, put him at nickel and let Jahdae Barron defend him. He's right now your best defender in the back end. And Loveland's kind of big too. Loveland's thick. So it depends on the guy you're going to put on him. He's 6'5". I mean, he's got some mass to him. And to me, that's really how you choke the passing game out if you're Texas. Once you stop the run, step 2, and you obviously have to achieve step 1, stop the run. Once you stop the run, then you gotta choke the life out of the passing game. And the way to do that is Colston Loveland, because they funnel everything to him. The stat I love is that they, as a team, they have Michigan had 10 plus yard plays. 6 of them were via the pass. 4 of those were Loveland. They had 2 20 plus yard plays, and one of those is Loveland. Like he's the guy. And he had 9 targets. He would have had 9 catches. He had a drop. And his average depth of target is around 6 yards. So it ain't far. He's just catching it, and they're getting it to him really quickly. He's the guy you got to stop. And he's their first down machine. Out of his, I think, 8 catches, 4 of them were first downs, and he had that touchdown. That's the guy. So first step, stop the run, sell out to stop the run. Step 2, stop Colston Loveland.
Yep. And
I think after that, I don't know what their counter would be offensively.
Yeah, I think you are going to see some more of Alex Orji. You know, we saw how dynamic he could be a year ago at times. We saw what he could do in week 1, more so as a running back, right? You know, they had him on the field for 9 plays. He ran the ball 5 of them. 2 of them he handed it off. 2 of them he actually dropped back and threw a pass. One, it looked like he was playing skee ball. The other one was a rollout in which he found a wide open Donovan Edwards for a 2-yard touchdown. So, you know what you're going to have when he's on the field. And right now, you know, folks inside of Moncrief preparing for this game, they're going to sell out to stop the run when he's on the field. He's not a great passer. He never has been. And I think another thing is when he is on the field and he does drop back to pass, those DBs are going to be very jumpy, right? They're going to be looking at those quick curls, those quick slants, those quick outs. Listen, Michigan had a lot of success. When they did complete passes, they were on slants, they were on quick outs. That's basically it. And now you ask Alex Orji to come in, who's not a better passer than Warren Davis, but Davis Warren, sorry. But he's athletic enough to make you think, okay, what if he does drop back to throw, though? Well, then he's either throwing it very deep or he's throwing it very quickly. And I think Texas would be best suited to, hey, let's jump everything. Let's work for that turnover. It worked against Alabama a year ago. It's the same kind of game plan I would expect right now. And luckily for Texas, this is very underrated. The speed at linebacker, Rod. If you're tasked with one of those guys having to keep a spy or just having the same responsibility of where he goes, I go, and everything else will fall into place with Orji in at the quarterback position. David Benda, Anthony Hill, 2 of the rangiest linebackers with speed that Texas has had, in quite some time, going back to Overshone as well. Man, the speed was on display against Colorado State, and I would expect that to be one of their big-time responsibilities this weekend as well. Again, look back at the blueprint against Alabama and Jalen Milroe. They're going to ask him to run more if he's on the field more, but they've done it once before. I like the blueprint they had in place back then. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think they'll see some option from Orji. Why wouldn't you? If you're Michigan, that's something that could catch Texas off guard. I remember Kansas broke it out, caught Texas a little off guard with that. And I think the counter for the quick game, the out, the hitch, the quick slant is going to be the double move. They can do a double move. Orji, if he can throw it deep, and even Davis Warren, you don't need a really accurate quarterback to throw. If a double move is ran well and the opponent is aggressive enough, they bite, they slip and fall, whatever it may be. That's a wide open window for a quarterback, even a lackluster average quarterback. And that'd be something you may see early on.
You may see the double moves early on. I think Texas is going to be really aggressive. Why wouldn't they jump those underneath routes? That's all they've proven on film that they can throw and connect on. And the slant and go, the hitch and go, the out and up, the stalk block and go off the wide receiver screens. That's something to watch. So I think that's something you get early on that Texas needs to consider too.
Yeah, Will Davis bit on a sluggo. A better pass, that's a wide open touchdown. So
exactly,
they're both teams are going to be looking to create turnovers, right? That's their MO. Texas had a lot of interceptions a year ago. Now they have more athleticism. One other thing I wanted to mention, I don't want to call him a wink link, but Rod, hey, I think Texas can very well target that right tackle, Evan Link. No pun intended, right? But 3 pressures, 2 quarterback hits, and a hurry allowed against Fresno State. I know that the Texas defensive end room was a bit quiet in that season opener, but this is where you'll start to see him target, one individual guy on the offensive line, much like we've talked about. That right side for Texas needs to be in sync. Evan Link's the guy that I'm looking at Texas trying to target. I think Trey Moore is going to be on the left side going up against the left tackle over there. But, you're going to see Barron Sorrell, you're going to see Ethan Burke, you're going to see Colin Simmons all kind of pin their ears back against that right tackle. And I think they're going to have some success.
Yeah, big game for the I think the edges are going to be they're going to be great versus Michigan. I think one thing to consider is the interior D-line. And can they hold up? That's been the question mark. Brought in some guys, of course, Bill Norton and Lole and Tia Savea, Alfred Collins and Vernon Brought. Big game for the guts of that Texas defense. And even those linebackers. You talked about the linebackers. Who's going to be third linebacker? They're going to need 4 of them. So it'll be Benda. It'll be, of course, Anthony Hill, Leon LaFau. They're going to need them. And they'll need more Blackwell. They'll need all of those guys. And one other thing before we get ready to wrap it up, I'll say this too. I wouldn't be surprised. The Johnny Nansen effect, if you're going to see something exotic you haven't seen, whether it be that kind of a 5-down front, whether it be, something more bare fronts. I was even talking to Alex Okafor, and he said he was giddy about how many different iterations and how many different types of fronts they played, but just against Colorado State. And if what we saw versus Colorado State is any indicator of how exotic and multiple this defense is going to be, they're going to be in a really, really good place. All right. There you go. Good stuff, CJ. Appreciate you helping to break it down. Texas versus Michigan. And of course, hopefully we'll be back here talking about an undefeated Texas team with a big win over Michigan next time we are previewing the Longhorns. But thank you guys for joining us. Really quick before we get out of here, let's make sure that we thank all you guys and let you guys know that it's time for you to get in the game, folks. That's right. Football season is here. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play fantasy sports. How does it work? It's really simple, really easy. I got the app on my phone. You just download the Underdog app or go online. It takes almost no time at all. It's really simple, really easy, and really fun. You can play their pick'em game. I can make picks really easy, submit them, and it takes me 60 to 90 seconds to do it. Really pain-free. But if I want to dive deep and go down a rabbit hole about some of those picks, I can do that too. You guys know I got the research. I can dig deeper, and I can make up to 325 times my money. That's the real important thing about Underdog. Underdog adds a ton of excitement to the sports viewing experience, especially for football, which is why I personally love it, but you'll love it too. They got lots of great opportunities for sports of every kind, and the best part is you can track your progress real time. Today, Underdog is hooking you up for the start of football season. You can go to underdogfantasy.com. Use the promo code ONTexas. That's right. Use the promo code ONTexas for a first deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick. That's right. They also have an additional site-wide Travis Kelce free pick, all right, that you'll be able to take advantage of until the kickoff of the NFL season, which kicks off tomorrow. Again, underdogfantasy.com. Use the promo code ONTexas right now for a free deposit offer up to $1,000 and 2 free picks if you count that Travis Kelce free pick. That's Underdog Fantasy, our choice and the choice for daily fantasy. My man CJ is going to be on the ground there at Michigan on the ground. My man Bobby Burton's going to be there. So the On Texas football crew will be represented. So look for my man CJ up there at the big house. All right, CJ, thank you very much. Thank you to all you guys out there for listening. And thank you guys for watching. Until next time, hook 'em horns.